Well, this message I'm about to give, I think it's challenging for me, and I think it's going to be challenging for you in a good way. We say often we want to be a loving, thinking, feeling church. I think this message you're going to think some things, and I think you're going to feel some things. But I'm going to ask you a question that I want you to answer in the privacy of your head. So here's what I'm going to give. Because I'm going to ask you this question that you get to be utterly private, I'm asking you to be intellectually honest with yourself. Because you don't have to tell anybody what you're thinking. The thing I want most is that you're honest with yourself. So here's the question. Is the God you believe in, or the God you were taught to believe in, or the God you hear some voice you're supposed to believe in? Is that the God you actually believe in? Is the God you were taught to believe in the God some voice says you better believe this way? When your real life hits, is that the God you really believe in? I hope you were honest and will be honest with yourself. I'll answer it for me, no. The God I was taught to believe in, and the God that sometimes my own voice or even my mentors told me I'm supposed to believe in, when my real life hits something, that's not the God I believe in at all. So what do you do? If this is you, and I wish I drew a woman too, but let's just say it's me. I'll just say it's me. In each one of our heads is a brain. And when it comes to God, your brain has beliefs about God, and if you're honest, those are your thoughts. It's okay. But you also have a heart. And with your heart, you have, for some of you, you have a trust in God. Like it's a reliance on Him. And then there's your actual experience. So what happens when your life goes a certain way, where you have all these thoughts of who God is supposed to be, all these thoughts that you believed and practiced about God, you have all these convictions, all these beliefs about this God, and then something happens in your real life, and these two things don't match up. What do you do? I can't even count how many times this has happened to me. Remember when I was a young pastor, one of the things I was taught, I grew up Catholic, but then in the whole 1980 thing, when, hey, dude, you got to get born again. I got born again. And so my faith changed, and my relationship with God changed, and my spiritual awakening grew. It was a wonderful thing. But the people who mentored me in my faith, there were many issues, but one of the things an issue that they brought up for me is that the role of men and the role of women. And I won't go into all of that, but specifically it was that women can't be leaders in the church. They can teach the children and they can serve, but they can't actually hold a role that men hold. This is the people that mentored me. It never mattered to me much because for all of my 20s, I was a campus minister. And in campus ministry, you do whatever it takes, man. And it was a lot of fun. So I ended up my campus ministry. I was the campus pastor at the University of Texas in Austin and finally wanted to leave campus ministry. And so took a job at a large church, at that time the largest church in America, called Willow Creek Community Church. And so I was going through the interview, and like anything, whether it's a business interview or customer service, even a ministry interview, people ask about your skill set, but then in ministry, whatever your skill set is a reflection of what you believe. So I might have the skill to teach. What people want to know is it's not whether you can manhandle a megaphone. We want to know what you're saying into the megaphone. That's what matters most, of course. So we were doing all of this, and they asked me, they go, David, where are you at with women in leadership? It's about 29 at the time. I go, I haven't thought about it much. I've been in campus ministry, and it's just kind of a boy-girl thing, and my wife is an unbelievable leader. In fact, she's better than me. So I remember going, I'm okay. I don't think it's a big deal. And I went my way. Well, no, they said, we're glad you said that, because that's what we actually do think it's a big deal. And we're a church that believes in equality that way. And men or women, whoever has the gift can use it. And so this is our thought about what we believe. And I said, I'm cool with that. Well, then I started sharing this with some of my lords over me of my past, small L. And they go, what? Well, that's not what you believe. And the word started to come in about what I was supposed to believe. And it confused me. Because I'm a guy that wants to be, I would like to believe, I'm not perfect, but I believe I'm sincere. So I don't want to be sincerely wrong. I don't want to screw this up. It was very confusing for me because I loved what I was working, what I was experiencing. It was no big whoop. Men or women, who's ever got the gift, man, go. And then somebody's telling me of how it should go. And so it became hard for me because what I was experiencing and the God I was trusting in was not what I was told I was supposed to believe. Then Willow was out in the Chicago suburbs, but we did plenty of inner city work. And I remember on one particular occasion, I had to go down to Cabrini Green in the south side of Chicago. And if you know Cabrini Green is one of the roughest neighborhoods in all of America. And I remember being down in this public housing complex at Cabrini Green, and this room was filled with people hearing about the love of Christ, about the faith, hope, and love of God. And it was filled with all these street people and people that you know were just marginalized in this world. And right in the center of it, there was this dynamic teacher teaching the Bible. And then I asked about this teacher, and they said, oh, they're here every week, and they have been for the last, I don't know, I can't remember then if they said 10 years or 20 years. And I was amazed at how magnetic this person was. This person was a woman. And my experience of my heart was going, yes, yeah, of course. In fact, I asked some of the folks that ran the deal, and I go, why her? Not why her, a woman. That's not what I was asking. Why is she here? And this is what they had. She is the only one who will come here and do this. And that made sense to me. Could you imagine then going, well, that's not what's supposed to be the case? I remember when we were young in our marriage and Liz would speak in certain places, and like I was the teacher, and then Liz would, and if you've ever heard my wife speak, she's an amazing speaker. But in those early days, it doesn't happen so much now, and it's never happened here. We would visibly see people stand up and walk out because women aren't supposed to teach. It just didn't make sense to me. So that's just one issue. So my point is, what do you do? What do you do when the God you believe in, or the God you say you believe in, or the God you're supposed to believe in, or the voices in your head? Because some of us have antivirus software that kicks in from our childhood. Somebody told us something is supposed to be a certain way, and then when it's not that way, when your own heart goes, yes, you have this antivirus software that just automatically kicks in and goes, no, no, no. Whether it's the voice of your head or the gargoyles of your life looming over it saying, that's not how it's, what do you do? Well, here's what I think. I think those are God moments. I think God orchestrates those moments. And whether you're reading a significant passage in John chapter 4, when Jesus comes in contact with the Samaritan woman, when you hear about the Jewish leader Saul on his way up to Damascus in Acts chapter 9 to pillage and to kill the believing Christians, and he comes in contact with Jesus, when you hear James and John turn to Peter, who's steeped well in his life and his religion and career, saying, come and see God. What you see over and over in the scriptures is this dilemma. What I think about God, what I'm supposed to believe with God, is not matching my real life. What do I do? Do I contort my heart and make sure I believe the right thing and practice the right thing? Or do I figure out some other way? And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Your illustration may be different, but something happened in your life where this has come about. You ran into a crisis. You went through a divorce. Your business went upside down. Somebody you care about died. You went to a seminar, you listened to a pastor, you read a book, and all of this came into being. Or you met people who do not believe what you believe. And they're a whole lot nicer and more lovelier than the people who do believe what you believe. And it doesn't make sense to you that there would be this cosmic Bible thumper who says, who's in, who's out? Is this making sense to anybody? Because I think this is pretty good stuff. No? You got to admit, right? We think this way, right? So what happens is many of us have been taught faith to approach certitude. Listen, we all get existential, whether you know what existentialism or not. So here's what existentialism is. Existentialism is about the meaning of your life. Every one of us walks around and goes, who am I? Where do I fit? Is there a God? What does this whole thing mean? What is my meaning? Will this happen? Will this not? Does it matter? All of us have existential wondering. All of us do. And so one of the reasons we want a spiritual faith that gives us certitude, that tells us this is what's absolutely true, this is what you absolutely should believe, here's your existential question, and here's the answer that you no longer have to worry about. The reason we love certitude is because it relieves existential angst. If I'm your pastor and you came up to me and asked the biggest existential question, and I go, I don't know, I was wondering the same thing. What are we paying you for? I get it. And so we love this certitude. And some of us grew up with a faith where all of your existential questions, you went down to the church and somebody answered for you. About the people who died in your life and where they went. About the tough situation you're going through and how you can have hope. But what happens with all of this is you create these beliefs and thoughts. Some of it matches what your life experience is, but some of you have plenty of stories and go, what they told me to believe is not matching at all. And so what I'm trying to do this summer is what I believe is ironic, that the more you pursue a faith of certainty, the more it becomes uncertain. And that's not the point. And I don't think it's Jesus's point, and I don't think it's God's point. And so I just want to show you a few verses. I could show you a gazillion, but I'm going to show you a few verses. This verse in John 14:1, this is when Jesus' followers, it's hitting them. Oh, this guy, when he talks about his kingdom, we thought he was going to be an earthly king, boot out the Romans, get rid of all the bad religion, and lead us into this life of faith. Now they go, oh gosh, this king we're following is not a king of this earth, and this faith, hope, and love is more an essence of inside us, not for real. And they get discouraged. Our king is going to die, and they're bummed out. So in John chapter 14, verse 1, and really this whole chapter, Jesus says, don't let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. What does he mean? This kind of belief? No. He means this kind of belief. The Greek word there is pistis, and other forms are pisteuo. It doesn't mean a belief like an affirmation. As I often tell you, I believe this chair will hold me up. I believe this chair will hold me up as I stand 3 feet from it. I believe this chair will hold me up as I stand 20 feet from it. My belief is the same. That's not what Jesus is talking about. Jesus is talking about pisteo, trust. When the moment I take my backside and rely on this chair to hold me up, that is the kind of belief he's talking. It's trust. What he's saying is, don't let your hearts be troubled. Why? Because I'm going to tell you how it all works out for the good. He doesn't say anything like that. Because your certitude is to trust in me. Your circumstances may go to hell and back, or stay in hell, so to speak. But your hope is your trust in me. Look at this next one. This is Jesus coming up to a man who wants to see a miracle in his life because he needs it. And so Jesus turns to him and says, if you can, said Jesus, everything is possible for one who believes. What kind of belief does he mean? Does he mean everything is possible if you believe in Christianity? That's not what he means. Everything is impossible if you hold to certain Christian principles and you believe them. Well, what happens? The one church says women can lead, and the other church says women can't lead, and they both say it's the word of God. What do I do? Jesus is like, it's not what I'm talking about. Let them fight amongst each other. I think he'd also say in the 21st century, go to the place where women can lead. That's what I think he'd say. But what he's saying is, if you can, everything is possible for one who trusts in me, who trusts. Immediately the boy's father and said, I do trust, pisteo. But then look at this. Help me overcome. He's not saying my unpisteo. He uses then the word for this. Jesus says, trust in me. He goes, I do trust in you. But help me with my fact that I don't necessarily know what I believe, or my belief isn't strong, or my belief is weak. Jesus is going, non-issue. Our beliefs and thoughts change and go up and down. Sometimes your belief system feels very strong. Sometimes circumstantially you're going through something and your belief system feels very weak. That's life. That's the life of the people in the pews. That's the life for the pastor. Jesus said, you may not know what is up ahead, but continue to lean in and rely on me. Even if you only have a little lean, give a little lean. This is what matters. And so this is very important. I want to share, just as we move towards a closing, I want to share with you that when you pursue a faith that has to be certain, here are other words for it: absolute truth, or this is the way. This gets very confusing, and this is what I'm trying to say. The very thing you're trying to sow your netting with is the very thing that will break it. And it's about trust. It's not about a belief system. I want to show you how pursuing certitude in your faith, how it gets very confusing. Look at this. I'm going to show a couple things. Certainty confuses trust with thoughts of God. This is what, remember I was talking about feelings? Folks, you can be happy and sad at the same time. Don't live dualistically. I can be both. I can be excited and scared about something. My daughter is going to college in Boston in the fall. She's very excited and very anxious. Liz and I are very anxious. I'm sure we'll ever get excited about that. Very proud of her. So you can hold both, but separate them. Don't confuse the two. You see, when trust is belief, then what happens is you then become like that guy, help my unbelief, help me to believe correctly, help me to believe right. Oh no, what happens if I think women should lead and it turns out I get to heaven, I was wrong? I wanted to be a good 21st century person, but and it's my experience, my wife is a more gifted leader than I am, but I want to be biblically right. Oh no! God is saying, separate the two. So my belief system is that this chair, and if this company makes 1,000 of those chairs, I bet you they all hold people's fannies up. I bet you they all do. That's my thoughts about that. Or I see one guy sit on one and this leg breaks and I go, not so sure. I can still go, I'm trusting today. And when you confuse the two and make the two one, your thoughts and belief, then you are so subject to circumstances. When your circumstances go well, you believe. When they don't go well, you think you're losing the faith. And this isn't what Jesus intended. Now, I've had this over the years. You know, Dave, I don't think it's that. You know what I do, Dave? I just follow the Bible. That's what it's about, following the Bible. Oh, really? You just follow the Bible? Well, the charismatic Pentecostal church down the street says they're following the Bible, but you think their beliefs are wrong. The Presbyterian church or the Baptist church down the corner says they're following the Bible, but it doesn't square up with your beliefs. An 8th century Monrovian believed they were following the Bible, and it's a lot different than a 21st century American. What are you talking about? You just follow the Bible. If you're intellectually honest, you go, I'm attempting to follow after God in my 21st century American life that is based on how I see the world, on who I am, where I was born, and just be intellectually honest about that. And so, certainty confuses trust. Certainty also creates a preoccupation with correct thinking. When your faith has to be certain, or you have to have an absolute, what happens is now your faith becomes more about duty. You start diluting the relational aspect of your life. You start saying, what help my unbelief? Or gosh, I certainly hope I believe correctly. Because this group says it's the correct belief. This one says this is the correct belief. This guy just says, I just follow the Bible, and I don't want to follow the Bible like he does. So what happens is it takes trust and reliance upon God, and it becomes more a spiritual prescription of performance and duty. And let me ask you, those of you who have had a dose of bad religion, where your religion is you better believe correctly and do the right thing, how'd that go for you? Did that make for a faith full of faith, hope, and love? It made faith like an assignment. And this isn't how Jesus transforms lives. Look at this next one. Certainty starts and stays in limitation. I'm going to give you a big theological thought here. Do you remember what the Ten Commandments says? It says, have no other idol beside God. And you're glad you don't worship idols because you don't worship a piece of metal or steel or an obelisk or some statue. You tell yourself, I worship the God of heaven. But do you and I really? Here's what I mean. That's it. Just go with this illustration. Once a person says, this is who God is, and operates in this, and says, that is the absolute truth, and you can be certain. Let's say they take your faith out of trusting God, but they make your faith be, you better believe the right thing, believe the correct thing, and perform it and do it well. Once someone does that, they have now created God in their image, because this is what they say God is. And whenever we create God in our image, it comes from our limited thought. So maybe we don't create a God out of stone and metal that we worship in the woods, but we can create idol-like gods in our mind, saying, this is the way to go, and this is the way not to go. This is the right way to believe, and this is not the right way to believe. That is idol-making. That is idol-like. So if I'm honest and say, I will always create a God I'm human, I'm finite. My picture of God, if this is God's truth, and this is God's bigness, vastness, I am right here. I will only see God from there. It's true and accurate for me, but I better be careful saying, from my limited view, I can see everything. But trust doesn't do that. When trust goes, listen, my job is just to rely and trust in God. He reveals who he is to people. And this is how he's revealed himself to me, and I am going to follow. Jesus said, follow me. He didn't say follow my teaching. He didn't say follow Christianity. He said follow me. He didn't say trust in Christianity. Trust in the principles of your church. He said, trust in me. And certainty can potentially, without you knowing it, make your faith idol-like. I think I have one more. The need to be certain, the need to make sure you're right or hold the correct belief, it always comes from, it always operates out of fear. I fear I'm going to get it wrong. I fear I'm not going to be right. I fear I'm going to screw it up. I fear I'm not doing it enough. I fear I need to be doing it more. This is not. When Jesus entered into people's lives, their fear was relieved. And so this is deep stuff. This is challenging stuff. This, for me, is the heart of Christianity. And you know the fulcrum verse, the cornerstone verse of Christianity. The two cornerstone verses of Christianity are John 3:16 and Ephesians 2:8 and 9. John 3:16 is, for God so loved the world that he put his love into action. He gave his son, and that whoever pisteos him, whoever has belief in him, and that's not what he said. He said the word pisteo. Whoever has trust in me, whoever relies upon me. Well, what if I'm uncertain? Life's uncertain. I can't know everything about faith. Whoever trusts in me, in a sense, experiences God. Ephesians 2:8, 9. For by grace, what is grace? God's gift to you. For by grace you have been saved through pisteo. Saved through the right belief system? No. Creating a born-again transaction? No. Saved through trusting in Christ, relying on him. You can't work for it. You can't have a right belief for it. You can't follow. Trust in him. And then Jesus talked about how big that faith needs to be. Oh, it can grow, but if you can just start with a mustard seed, it's a good way to start. How you doing? Lionel? All right, let's close in prayer together. I think this is important stuff. I think it's good stuff. And not because, and by the way, I want to give some credit where it's due. I would go get Pete Enns' book, The Sin of Certainty. Much of what I'm teaching is from Pete Enns' book. So I want to be careful and make sure I don't plagiarize my thoughts. Pete Enns is a great scholar and theologian, and has helped me with just a lot of my own thinking. So look for his book. And we want to be a church that love is our highest aim. But listen, God gave you something. You have something in your head called a cerebral cortex. You know what that means? You are capable of deep existential thought, and you are capable of abstract thoughts about God. So not only are we going to be a loving church, we are going to be a thinking church, because God gave you a brain to think. And we're going to be a feeling church. So when people we love or dogs we love or selling a church, when this stuff should make us feel. All right, let's pray. Pray with me. God, I will love what you love. I will love others. I will love the life you've given me. I will love your creation, and I will take care of it. And I will love this path, this Zoe path, this life path I am on, even with all its uncertitude. And God, I will demonstrate your love. I will demonstrate your love by accepting others, listening to others, showing compassion and empathy towards others, by giving, by serving others. And God, I will pursue trusting you more and more. I no longer tell myself that my beliefs automatically mean I'm trusting in you. They're different. So help me with my trust. Help me to rely upon you. Help me to lean into you. Help me to look to you, to reach out to you. I do want to grow in what I believe. I do want to learn more about what I believe. But I want to trust in you. Help me to separate my thoughts and beliefs from my trust and reliance upon you. And God, may I hold on to the greatest reflection of you, which is to love. To love you with all our heart, soul, and mind, as Jesus said. To love our neighbor. What neighbor? Every neighbor. To love them as you love me. May trust transform into love. Belief can just transform into knowledge and doctrine and dogma and performance. But I want a life that lives trust. In Jesus' name.